Lesley Manville.
Hello.
Lesley, it's a real honor to have you here. And I'm sure many of us are great admirers of your work, both on screen and on stage. And so I'm excited to pick your brain a bit about this really, really lovely and layered performance in Midwinter Break. I was hoping you could start out by telling us a bit about how you became involved in the project, which, as Daniel mentioned in his introduction, is a very long gestating project dating back to the novel, which was picked up in 2017 and has gone through a real journey to get here in this form. So could you speak just about at what stage you became involved, whether you were familiar with the novel, familiar with Polly Findlay's work, and just what brought you here?
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with the novel, but I was great friends with Polly Findlay, who you may not know is a very highly esteemed theatre director. This is her first film. So I'd known her for years and years, and we'd been trying to work together on various theatre projects that, for a number of reasons, didn't ever come to fruition. And then she came to me with this project, but it was there was no screenplay, and it was early on. And I remember Kieran Hines and I going with Polly to Film 4 to talk about the project and, just trying to push things forward. But it is amazing how long everything takes. It always amazes me too when you watch the credits of how many people it takes to make a film. So because Polly is such a wonderful human being, she's very sensitive and she's very smart. And I think theatre directors make very good film directors, because as a theatre director, it should be the main concern in every genre, every area really, television, film and theatre, but it often isn't the case with television and film directors that they're very good with the actors. But theatre directors kind of have to be. And she is an exceptionally good director. She understands the human condition. And so I was very excited about the prospect of not only working with her for the first time, but working with her on her first film. And she had an extremely good producer by her side, Guy Healy, and essential, and he was there all the time, very hands-on. And again, he's a very sensitive human being, and a great DOP, which is essential as well, especially if you're a first-time director. So that was my journey with it, really.
I'm sure. I think it was also mentioned in the introduction that you're currently engaged in a Broadway run of the play Oedipus. And I am curious if you could speak a bit about the difference between screen acting and stage acting. And I'm sure it's an immense question.
It is quite a big question, and mostly it's usually phrased in the way of which do you prefer. And that's an impossible answer because they're so different and the demands on the actor are so different. I couldn't live without the theatre. It's really where I started. Not that I haven't always made films, or certainly back in the heyday of the BBC. I'm very grateful to have grown up at a time when the BBC used to make a lot of wonderful drama and new drama, and they used to give space and money to new writing. That happens less so now, but it was really halcyon days. So I've always done all three things. But the thing about television and film acting is, and I've witnessed it, performances not being very good, and you can edit round them, or you can simply cut away from them and look at somebody else. You can't do that on stage. You know, you're very exposed. The audience can look at whoever they want. You can't be edited. And the evening is, what I like about it is the evening is your responsibility, your collective responsibility. You know, the curtain goes up, as it were, metaphorically in some theatres, but it's you, and it's nobody's going to stop you. Nobody's going to say cut. If you get it wrong, you can't go back and start again. So there's a pressure, but it's a delightful pressure. Whereas filming, it's just, you know, you might do that much in a day. And it's about getting that moment right, or that small sequence right. But you see, once a film is made, it's totally out of my hands, whereas a play isn't. And I suppose if I had to choose one thing to do for the rest of my life, it would be theatre. I suppose because it's a little bit of the control freak in me. You know, and goodness me, I've worked with some amazing film directors, amazing. But, you know, you wave goodbye to this part that you've played, and it's in their hands, and they can do what they want with it. And that's quite right, because a film does, it's the next phase of a film. It's down to the editor and the director, and you shape it, and you give it color and dynamic and stress and all of those things that and there's so much to do in the editing process, which is fascinating in itself. But, you know, it almost becomes, I am distanced from my performance with the edit.
I'm curious to hear more about your work with Polly, specifically on this film. And you mentioned that theater directors often make great cinema directors. And I'm curious, specifically in relation to your work with Polly, did you feel that more strongly in that she's a first-time filmmaker? Were you surprised by the finished product of the film after it had gone through her editing process and her sort of...
I think the edit was tricky on this because you could slant it, color it in so many ways. And, you know, it's not a film with a beginning, middle, and end. There's no solution. There's no neat package tied up at the end. It's left... And I think I've worked a lot, as some of you might know, with Mike Leigh, and a lot of his films don't have beginnings, middles, and ends, because it's about looking at a moment in people's lives. And, you know, our lives, we may decide to get divorced, not get divorced, have a child, not have a child. But our lives go on. And I like films like that because I think they leave the audience thinking, what if? I wonder if. Like with Stella and Jerry in this film, you end up thinking, oh, okay, so what are they going to do when they get home? Is it going to be the status quo, or is Stella going to make some kind of, be the orchestrator of change? But Polly was, I mean, obviously if my memory serves me correctly, I think we spent about 5 days working in London on the script, all of the actors who were involved. And, you know, there's no point getting up and walking around and trying to play the scenes and block them out because you're not in the location. And also it's quite nice when you do get to a location, to give the actors the freedom to go where they want. And that certainly happened. But what was good about that week is that we just read it through in a kind of gentle way and picked it apart. And everybody contributed, and I mean, Polly obviously has to have the biggest overview of it all because it's her vision. But the greatest collaborations I have, and Polly was definitely one of them, is when they want to see what you're bringing to the table. It's not kind of do it like this needs to be like that. It's, you know, you create the characters and you understand the world that you're dealing with, and then you're given a freedom. And then it's it's really very delightful because you know what you're bringing is important and is going to be listened to, what Kieran brought, what Polly brought. And it's a real team because you're also working with a DOP, a camera operator, and I love all of that. I don't want to go off when we're filming and just kind of I want to stay in the room and on set and engaged because I love listening to directors and DOPs work out how to shoot the scene. And again, you know, Polly let us play the scene and then would then work out how it would be best to shoot it and tell the story of what was going on with the two of us. And you've got to have a sensitive DOP to do that as well. So it was a really very, very fulfilling film to make, and it's, you know, and it's delicate, and the characters are contradictory, and Stella is obviously at a crossroads in her life, and has buried a lot of grief that she's carried, and buried a lot of decisions that she made early on about her life that she hasn't dealt with. And of course, her faith is very, very important to her. And I mean, I'm not a person of faith, so that was, you know, a leap, but I can understand somebody who feels that they've made a promise that in her mind, this miracle has happened. She was shot in the Troubles. The bullet miraculously passed through her, as she says in the speech. It went in one side and out the other. It didn't kill her baby, and she made a promise to herself, but to her God, that she would devote, if her God would let the baby survive, she would devote her life to God, and she hasn't, and that's gone for all these decades, and mixed with that her ambiguity about her relationship, which on the surface you can look at this marriage and think, well, it's pretty good, this marriage, by the looks of it, you know. He's funny, she's funny, they seem to have a nice time, they're affectionate, they're loving. But of course, he's got issues that she doesn't like. He's a secret drinker, and so, you know, she gets this bee in her bonnet about going back to a place that she remembers from a very early trip to Amsterdam. And of course, what she was told about this place, the Beheinhof, was that it was a sanctuary, it was a place for women to be devout and live together. It's not that anymore, so it's all a bit of a shock. But it's interesting that she kind of opens up her heart to somebody that she's just met, which of course is I can understand that entirely. It's easier almost to do it to somebody that you don't know than to a husband you've been with for, 40 odd years.
think an extraordinary quality of the film is the sort of precision with which you and Kieran capture the rapport of a long married couple, and so much of that is in what's not said and what's communicated by gesture, by silence, by facial expression, by just sort of the most minute details of interaction that may have nothing to do with the words on the page. And I'm curious if you could speak just a bit about your work with Kieran how do you construct a rapport like that?
Well, you see, you can't construct a rapport. It's not something you can write down. It is not a formula. Rapport like that, and likewise it reminds me, of course, with the play I'm doing now with Mark Strong. You can't, it's not definable. You know, you just have to, that's where good casting comes into play. And, you know, Kieran and I just found the nuances of that relationship. You know, he's a lovely, easy person to work with. And we were both on the same page about the state of this relationship. And, you know, sometimes it's down to the moment and what the other actor makes you feel. And if they do something that you know the subtext of what they've just done is an irritation or a fondness or whatever it is to the other character, you know, you can register that and display that. But it's potluck. You know, you get an actor that's just not giving you anything, and you can work your socks off, and it's not gonna happen. And no, I'm not naming any names, but Kieran is an absolute joy. He's also a very nice person to sit around a table and eat your dinner with as well. Very nice. So you know, there's something. What I like about my job is that one of the things I like about it is that things like this that you're alluding to are sort of not up for analysis, because they kind of either happen or they don't. And you've got to be both in the right zone, understanding what you're doing. You've got to have done all the work. Actually, yes, that's crucial. You've got to have done the work. And Kieran and I, you know, we both did a lot of work before we started filming. We were very diligent, the pair of us, and prepared. And the same is true when I'm on stage. You know, I'll be very, very, very prepared. And then you can kind of let it go and let the mood of the scene take you. And if you're open to it, you know, all sorts of good things will hopefully come out of it. But the work has to have been done, and you have to be the right cocktail of people.
I think we have a few minutes. If there are any audience questions, you can raise your hand high, and there's a mic that'll come around. I see a hand right here in the center. The mic will come to you.
I can't see your faces very well, but...
Hi.
Hello.
I love what you said about the difference between performing on screen and how you lose control of the character on movies and I guess television too, to some extent, right? Have you had cases where you felt that the character that came out in the production was very different than the one you thought you were playing or you wanted to play? And did it upset you, or did you learn something from it?
No, I haven't felt that, but I have felt that I don't watch dailies, but I do always watch the end result, and I always want to save it until it's totally edited. It's got the soundtrack on, all of that, and then I'm seeing it in the fullest and best possible circumstances. And I'm always surprised sometimes how I thought things would look, and that's why it's useful to watch them, and that they don't, what I thought I was trying to portray isn't quite being portrayed, but that's just a lesson for myself. But no, I've never felt that directors have, have shifted the performance to a degree where I've been unhappy. But I've noticed directors maybe cutting away from performances that haven't been so good because, for obvious reasons. But I think what the greater thing that happens in the edit is not so much that performances can get manipulated, because it's very hard. It would be very hard to do that. But you can edit the flow of a piece. You can make the audience think quicker, think slower, calm them down, ratchet things up so that you can make it more suspenseful, less suspenseful. There's so much you can do with the speed of the edit and any soundtrack that's involved. But no, I just think all I'm saying is when I say that I like it when I go on stage because nobody can stop me or edit me. It's just, that is just a real pleasure of doing a live performance. But, we did some pretty long takes in this film. And that's always, I really like that, when you just keep, they're not just little short scenes. I mean, like when Stella goes and opens up her heart to the woman that she meets talks about why she feels she should devote her life because she's had this child that didn't die against all the odds. That's great. That's manna from heaven for me, because and Polly I think we did quite a lot of takes of that because we did different sizes. But the scene wasn't interrupted. So for me, I always get excited when some filming feels quite theatrical because it's quite long, and you know that nobody's going to stop you. So it gives me a clue that I kind of just leave me alone, really. Just let me get on with it.
I think I can take one more question. I see one here in the middle. Well,
They can't hear you.
You mentioned soundtrack, among other things that sometimes are interesting to you as an actor, and you see what the director does with the film and his team. The numbers in this particular film are quite interesting, I think. There's certainly at least 3 of them are right from that period in the 70s when they're looking back and whatnot. And I just wondered what you thought of that. I mean, I thought The Great Pretender is a wonderful song, The Platters, and then the Kinks song at the end is great. This Time Tomorrow, Where Will We Be? And then, of course, In the Bleak Midwinter is such a appropriate.
Yeah. Well, actually, Polly said to me, "What's my favorite carol?" And I said, "It's In the Bleak Midwinter." So that was a little personal choice. The music's, listen, that's all out of my hands, apart from In the Bleak Midwinter. But it's good, isn't it? I'm glad you appreciate the sound. I've only actually seen the film once, and I haven't seen it on a big screen. So I need to see it again. I'll sneak into the back of my local cinema when it opens and watch it on a big screen and enjoy it that way and absorb the music. But it is. It's good. Isn't it? I mean, all those things, I think they're such massive decisions. How do you ever decide which is the right soundtrack to use? And of course, there's a score as well. There's, and these things can make or break a film, really. When I made Phantom Thread, Johnny Greenwood did the score. He's worked with Paul Thomas Anderson loads of times. And I don't know why I'm sharing this with you. It's just a bit of fun, really, a bit of gossip. But Paul said to me one day, they were in London recording the soundtrack, which is really quite epic and classical. And Paul said, do you want to come and watch Johnny working with the London Philharmonic Orchestra today? I went, hang on a minute, I think I maybe need to go to the supermarket. No, of course I'm coming. So I went to watch him do this work with this amazing orchestra. And then that evening, Johnny was playing at the Royal Festival Hall in London with an Indian band that he'd worked with for many years. So I went and watched him do this completely different thing in the evening. And then just to round it off, I went home and listened to a bit of Radiohead. I mean, what a chameleon musician that man is. But I don't know why I segued onto that. It's just the importance of a soundtrack, isn't it? And yeah, but how you make those decisions and how you pick the very right piece of music it's all about atmosphere, isn't it? Creating atmosphere that enhances. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to say that's all the time that we have, but thank you all, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.